What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Revealed. We are here in our ComAv project, one of our ComAv projects, where we are renovating just the kitchen here on this project. We showed you a lot in the shop when this was being fabricated. We walked you through some of the site work to get us to this point, but now we're about halfway done with our cabinet install. As you can see, just about all of the cases are installed, with the exception of one corner cabinet here. This side does get a finished end panel, and there's a bit of a miscommunication between us and the finisher, and that panel didn't get finished in the appropriate color, so we sent that back over to the finisher to have them respray that. So we started by getting in all of the lower cabinets first, and in that process what we do is we set a 2x4 ledger on the back wall in the very beginning. That allows us to set a height and our level line going all the way across for our base cabinets. We have adjustable feet on the front of our cabinets, which allows us to adjust the front, leveling off those cabinets perfectly. And from there, as we're going through, we can cut in for any electrical outlets or any of the plumbing in for the sink. So once we get the cabinets set on the ledger, that 2x4 that's on the back wall, we're able to easily adjust the height of the front to level off those cabinets. One of the nicest things about them is the adjustability can be very fine-tuned, so you can get these cabinets leveled off perfectly. We get a lot of questions asking about these feet. They are from Richelieu, and you can find them on their website. They come in several different sizes and varieties, so you'll find one that suits the application that you're looking for right on their website. So once we get the lowers installed, we move on to the upper cabinets. Since James is here by himself installing that, he uses a couple of these third hands to lift these cabinets right up into place and then secures them to the wall using a cabinet screw. Once the uppers are in, he was able to put in these full height panels and then the adjacent full height cabinetry. This one here, getting the refrigerator, provides a bit more of a challenge to install since we do have a full height cabinet on the other side. We need to bridge the gap with the upper cabinet, and it can be tricky to install. So to do this, we typically attach a cleat to either side of the case that overhangs a little bit. Then we can lift that case up into place with those cleats resting on each side of the end panel or cabinet, so we're not having to hold up that cabinet. At this point, most of the fillers for all of our cabinetry are done. There's a few scribes that we're holding off on for the walls and the ceiling. We're gonna wait until the plaster at least gets primed before we install those. But we're going to go ahead and scribe them ahead of time, so once everything is painted, we can just toss those into place pretty quickly. Now that we have both of the full height cabinets in, they provide an end panel for our countertops to be captured in between. Today, we are currently right in the middle of getting the countertops templated. So what they've gone ahead and done is actually templated this entire countertop. Due to restrictions in the building's access, we have to make this in 3 different pieces. So we'll have each end be one piece, and then the whole center will be another piece. This way there we can get it up into the actual unit. When templating our counters, we typically try to work closely with the fabricator that's on site templating, making sure a few of the details like the sink center is accurate. And in this case, we're doing a flush mounted cooktop, which takes a little bit more working out and figuring out with that fabricator. While he's here, he's also templating for the backsplash in a few different places. We're doing a full height stone backsplash to match the counters throughout this entire kitchen, and we're gonna have to do that in a few different stages. So today, he's also going to template the long backsplash here and the short one here behind me. Typically, the fabricators don't like to template the countertops and the backsplash at the same time. They would prefer that the countertops be installed and then they template the back. However, in this case, we have another 3/4 inch panel that's going to act as our integrated pole for the doors that's going to be applied to the bottom of these cabinets after stone is installed. This is going to allow us to have a slight gap between the bottom of the actual case and the top of that stone backsplash to allow for any adjustment that may need to be done in the field. Because of this, they are able to template and install both the backsplash and the countertop at the same time. However, on the opposite wall over here, because we're missing this cabinet that does have a returned end panel, we can't get an accurate template today. They'll come back in a few days once this cabinet is installed, template this space, and ideally come back in one shot and install all of the stone. So I know we ran through this pretty quick, but we're gonna wrap it up there. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Let us know. We're going to try to bring back the live Q&A segment this week, but we need those questions in the comments. And big shout out to James for getting all of this installed by himself in just a couple days.
Quick little Q&A sesh. It's been a little bit. Fabrication versus install. You do both. Does it make sense to sub out the install? Walk us through that decision making.
Yeah, so somebody had asked us if we would consider doing just the fabrication portion of the cabinetry and doing it for another builder and letting them handle the install. What are the pros and cons with that, and is it lucrative for a small shop to do it? So typically we don't fabricate for other builders. We would fabricate strictly for our projects. That being said, we do have an announcement coming up here in a couple of weeks. Don't want to say too much more on that until then.
Okay.
But it is a good idea, I think, if you're a small shop and you can, if you have somebody that does the install that you can, I guess, communicate well with, and really kind of you're on the same page with, and they can handle the overflow from your shop or, I guess just installs in general. As long as they're performing to your level, desired level, I don't see why not. And your budget supports it. It may be a little bit more expensive, but at the same time, if your strong suit is being in the shop, then maybe you're more profitable being in the shop doing that work and subbing out the install portion of it. And yes, maybe it is at a higher rate or higher expense, but at the end of the day, you're better off in the shop.
Right.
So the bad side of it is, yes, you do hire somebody that can't hit your level of detail or your requirements, and then you are on the line for fixing their mistakes, basically.
Yeah.
What happens if they damage a piece of the millwork? Has to get refinished, has to get remade. Who's responsible for that? So I think if you're just working out all of these details ahead of time, then you're good to go. I say do it.
Right. So it really depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Like most things.
Of course.
All right. What finish do we use on our cabinets here at NS Builders?
So we are using a 2K polyurethane. This is both for paint finishes and clear finishes, and it's super durable. It's very similar to a conversion varnish, if you're familiar with those types of finishes. It's super durable, very flexible, easy to maintain and clean, so it's something that we like to use here in our shop. Well, not in our shop, since we sub out the finish, but on our projects.
On our product. Real quick, anyone on Instagram Live, drop a question if you have one for Ken, and the people on YouTube, obviously, you can follow Ken to join in on these conversations at any time. Communication with finisher, I guess that segues in nicely.
Yeah, we, again, someone had asked about how are we communicating with our finishers, and when it comes down to like specific pieces, how are we letting them know what parts of it, let's say a certain area of that gets an alternative finish or doesn't get any finish at all. How are we relaying this information to the finisher? So the projects for us start off with us sending over the shop drawings to the finisher so they have full understanding of what they're getting into, and they can provide us with a quote from there. And also any questions that might arise from what are we doing for finish in this section, or what does this detail look like, things like that we're kind of figuring out ahead of time. Then when it comes into our shop and we're in fabrication, if something doesn't get taped, like doesn't get painted, for instance, if we have an edge that gets a glue joint, right? We don't want to finish on that edge because then it won't allow the glue to bond correctly. So in cases like that, we're often taping off where we don't want finish. Okay. So if there is that, that long edge of a cabinet side or something, then we're going to make sure that we tape off that whole edge and also just write in Sharpie like no finish or something to that effect. And then the same's true for other kind of funky details. If we need the finish to go to a certain location, a certain spot or something, or sometimes for our under cabinet skins we do this detail where the edge of the cabinet hangs down a little bit proud of the actual piece, but we don't need the underside of the case finished. We just need that small area.
All right.
We're drawing lines and labeling a lot with Sharpie to let them know where to finish and where to stop finishing. Obviously, we're never putting Sharpie under an area that we're going to have finished.
Right.
That way it doesn't bleed through. There's no issues like that. But also a lot of the times that we do need the entire area to be at least primed. We need it to be sealed so that it's balanced. So there have been times where they cover up the marks and they'll just end up finishing the whole thing, which usually isn't a problem for us. It's just a little bit more work on their end.
Okay. Edge banding finish? What is it? I'm sorry. You wrote in code, right? Sorry.
What are we doing for the paint grade edge banding?
Paint grade. Jesus. All right, there it is.
And so we use a mix of just unfinished maple or birch edge banding, as well as solid stock. So maple or beech, something to that effect for edge banding on paint grade materials. This is typically done on like a combo core material. Mm-hmm. So we're painting the whole thing and using one of those two types of edge banding.
All right, question here from Pulp Build UK.
Okay.
We've been following cabinet build video and have a quick question. How do you attach plinth toe kick to cabinet leg plastic clip, question mark?
So I think we call those furniture style base is what I think he's getting at, where the baseboard or the toe kick is proud of the face frame, let's say. And please correct me if I'm misunderstanding what you're asking. A lot of the times in those situations, we're either pulling the feet all the way to the front and adding an extra block to the back of those clips to attach them to the feet, or we're attaching them directly to the face frame. So we'll run the face frame long. If we're having 1.5 inch reveal on our face frame, we'll actually drop that face frame down another inch or two so that we have something backing up to that toe kick, and we can attach it, whether it's a brad nail or finish nail, something in that department. Typically we try to steer clear of doing anything on the face, shooting any kind of nails or screws or anything on the face of a finished panel. So typically we'll just add an extra block or two to the back side of that kick so that it does reach those adjustable feet.
All right. Ian wants to know if you miss him yet.
I do. I just texted him. He hasn't texted me back yet.
Well, evidently he's on Instagram.
Uh-oh.
Ian. Drawer stock.
What are we using for our drawer stock?
What are we using for our drawers? What are we using for our drawer stock? I don't know spell theirs.
So we use solid lumber. Typically our interiors are walnut. So we'll go with a walnut drawer stock. Solid 5/8 thick drawers. Everything is dovetailed. But then occasionally we do get into, a white oak interior or a maple interior. Again, same thing, 5/8 stock and solid wood, dovetailed. That's about it. Easy.
There you go. Clip and slide.
Dunzo.
So here's a very common question. Trowel ink waves high, I think. Could be a middle finger, I can't tell. Blocking versus plywood.
Okay, yeah, so we did the video a couple weeks ago on a small kitchen that we recently demoed and got into starting to do the cabinetry on. And when we ripped off all the board, we replaced it with plywood. Since it was going to be floor to ceiling cabinetry in stone, we didn't need to do board and plaster. Kind of funny that Colby just waved though, right?
Yeah, Colby.
He knew what we were up to over here. Do we need to use blocking if we if we already have the plywood? And in short, yes. The blocking, in my opinion, is far superior than just having a 1/2 inch sheet of plywood screwed to those studs. Are your cabinets going to go anywhere? No, probably not. But a 1/2 inch really isn't a substantial amount of materials to be adhering all of that cabinetry to, especially something like an upper where you're really going to load those up. A lot of fragile items, dishes, glassware, things like that, that are really going to put a lot of weight on those screws, and if they did fall, would just be catastrophic, right? Glass and things everywhere. A lot of possibility for someone getting hurt. So I would err on the side of caution and use blocking regardless of what your face material is going to be there, board, plaster, or plywood. Which kind of leads us into the next question, which was, do we use nail plates, or you should be using nail plates? Now, yes, absolutely. These are, if you don't know, they're sheets of metal that go over, plumbing lines, electrical lines, things like that. So when you are screwing through the wall blindly, you're not hitting any of these and causing an issue, which we have done. I'm sure many of you have also done. So we definitely want to try to avoid that. Typically, our subcontractors, being the plumbers and electricians, are putting on these nail plates, but there are times where we haven't had them in, and it's, like I said, it's been tricky to navigate and find that. And we've had a few scares where we've had to take cabinets off the walls to open them up and search. And there's been other times where we have had to add them on. But another precaution that we take is when we do have the walls all opened up, we photograph everything. So we know exactly where there's water lines, plumbing lines, and we try to do all this with tape measures in the photos too, so that we do have better understanding of where those pieces, the plumbing might be, or the electrical might actually be within those walls. And then as we're putting up the board, in this case with the plywood, we were noting on the actual plywood where those lines are so that we don't come in contact with them. This is obviously a lot trickier to do when you're running into a plastered situation. If you made any of those marks, they would just get plastered right over and you would never see them again. So super helpful to have photographs of everything prior to board. And if you can't get the photographs, then I guess just do your best and use stud finders to make sure you guys are hitting the actual studs. We had another question about the pocket door hardware that we used on that job that we were just discussing. So, you good?
That's my vet,
Just your vet?
Yeah, they're hard to get a hold of, so I really wanted to answer that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. It's needed. Good timing. I think we were wrapping up the last question here. Was the pocket door hardware for that job. The existing pocket doors were in pretty rough shape. We couldn't even really get them open. So we replaced them with cavity sliders. We used the Cavitrack, and that came with the M6 carriages and door stops. So, boom. You got any questions there, or did you have to exit out for your phone call? Oh, you just lost it now.
It was there, no, it's not there. Sam said something.
You can look at this one, but it's kind of far away.
I do have one more question before we go. No one asked it, I'm just curious. Coming into the holidays, do you try to wrap as much as you can up before the holidays, generally speaking, or just get to a good stopping point? Like, how do you kind of approach it in the shop?
I think that's a great question, right? Because everybody gets into the rat race between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's never fun for anybody involved. So typically, we try to slow down a little bit between Christmas and New Year's and really scale back on the amount of work we're taking on. We try not to take on anything new during that time.
Yep.
And yes, wrap up what we have on our plate. This year we had a few projects that actually finished before, so we were able to kind of take it a little bit slower the last week or two. But we definitely don't want to. You lost them. We definitely don't want to be scrambling around and be part of that rat race, trying to, get a project done in time, only to cut corners or risk somebody getting injured or damage to the home, anything like that. We don't want to do any of that. So we're going to really slow it down and focus on the stuff that we do have on deck. And a lot of times we're not wrapping up projects by then anyway. We're ahead of time. We're going into these projects with the understanding that they're going to go beyond these holidays and that other arrangements are going to need to be made. The project that we keep talking about, this small kitchen renovation, it was well aware with the client that we were going to be into mid-January with this project, and they were fine with that. We set the expectations ahead of time, And, we started this project in early November. So Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, all off the table for them to have any kind of, party or gathering at their house. And they were totally fine with that. They knew going into it and they were okay with it. If it is an issue, then maybe, instead of starting a project in early November, you wait until the new year. Yep. Yeah. So again, set and manage expectations and just communicate throughout the entire process.
Something I heard, actually, Nick said it on the NS podcast, and I think it's something that kind of resonated with me, and I think probably resonates with you, is understandable. I just bought a home, and I understand, like, communicating and deadlines and wanting to know so you can tell this person to, a lot of things interconnect, right? Mm-hmm. But something to keep in mind, and Nick, this is Nick's words, not mine, is these people you're hiring to come in your homes have families too. Mm-hmm. And, the reality is, all right, so things get pushed off 7 days or 8 days. Like, it's not, maybe in probably the vast majority of cases, it's not the end of the world.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even if it's like a full home, right, your full house is going to be in shambles and it's not going to get done in a week.
Right.
And same thing with even just the small kitchen. Like in this particular project, the homeowners are living there. And we actually, our company, we shut down the week between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
It's proven to be a very unproductive week, I think, all around. And it's just, it helps kind of boost morale coming into the new year, gives everybody a fresh start. And we've noticed that it's been very well received on our end. And it kind of goes to the same thing with the homeowners. Like, yeah, maybe we could have gotten your project wrapped up a week early, especially, again, in this case of this kitchen. But from the start, we let them know what the schedule is going to look like. They have full access to what that schedule is. And we can talk about it, ask questions, things like that. And sure, we can try to get ahead of that schedule. Mm-hmm. But again, we're not going to be able to do that most of the time. Mm-hmm. And just setting and managing those expectations. I feel like I sound like a broken record here.
Yeah, well, it's worth repeating.
What do you got? You still alive over here?
Somebody's got a question there, but God. Here it comes. Here comes the lead. Do you guys have to use PTO that week? And no.
No, we don't. We
mandatory time off.
Yep, mandatory time off, company paid, non-PTO. Same thing with actually the week of July 4th.
July 4th week.
So we're off that week as well. Same thing. No PTO for that week. Company pays, and then your other PTO you can take
when you want.
Yeah, throughout the year. Yeah. So cool place to work, I guess. I think we're hiring soon, huh? In the new year.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe reach out.
Keep your ear to the ground. Well, on that note, hey. I guess there'll be one more episode before holidays, but
if we keep it up,
in case you don't watch,
we've been pretty bad.
With what?
With this.
Not doing.
We haven't gone live in months.
Yep.
And then
I think there's going to be a more formal version of this coming in the coming year.
We got a lot of big changes in the coming year.
A lot of big changes coming.
I know I'm excited for them. I know you're excited for some. And we're excited to share them. So in a couple weeks here, we'll let you guys know what's going on. And with that, I think we're out.
Until next time.
See you guys. Thanks for watching.
Good day.
Oh, no, I can't reach it.
Oh, God, I can.